The story happened with a young couple. After years of hard work, they were finally able to buy a small flat. Teju and Nami wondered why their apartment was very cheap, although it was such a spacious place. Sometimes they had a bit of a weird feeling, but both of them didn't think too much about it. Maybe it's just luck, they said to themselves. When entering their new home, both Teju and Nami had an indescribable feeling. They had never felt so delightful. They hugged each other, talked about their sweet memories, and outlined their plans for the future. Teju and Nami sat side by side on the sofa and talked with a lot of passion during the whole afternoon. They forgot to arrange the furniture until it had gotten dark. Then they began to clean the flat and put clothes in the closet. When Teju was checking his suitcase, he heard Nami's call from behind. He turned his head and saw his wife trying on a quality red dress. The dress was found in Nami's wardrobe. Perhaps the previous owner of the apartment had forgotten it. Because the dress looked expensive, they decided to keep the dress instead of throwing it away. What a coincidence. The dress fitted Nami very well, like it was designed for her. That night, after dinner, they went to bed early. It took only 5 or 7 minutes for them to fall asleep because they were tired. At midnight, because of thirst, Teju got out of bed and went to the kitchen. But when he turned to Nami, he couldn't see her. He thought maybe his wife was in the toilet. Approaching the living room, he felt a little strange. There was no light bulb lit. At first, Teju went to the bathroom nearby, but he couldn't find his wife. So he thought that maybe Nami was in the kitchen to drink water because both of them had eaten dry food that night. However, when passing by the mirror, Teju was startled a little bit. He saw a shadow of someone. Maybe it was just a hallucination. He stepped back. Then his heart beat so fast in his chest because he realized the hallucination was a woman in a red dress. Quickly looking at the door, Teju took a relaxed breath when he realized it was his wife, Nami. But her expression at that moment looked very strange. Seeing Nami, Teju moved to her and asked his wife, "Why are you still wearing this red dress? It's midnight already." But Nami did not care at all. Her eyes were vague as one who has lost a soul. Therefore, Teju nervously approached his wife and asked her many times what was wrong. Despite what he was saying, Nami didn't open her mouth to say a word. Teju gripped his wife in panic while she suddenly started yelling crazily. After a few minutes, Nami returned to normal. However, her face was a bit bewildered. She didn't know what happened. She wasn't able to remember why she was there, how she did any of it. Even Nami didn't know when she put the red dress on. Teju could not answer Nami's questions either. He assumed that she had been sleepwalking. Hearing that, Nami became even more worried and scared than before. She had never experienced anything like this before. Teju moved closer to comfort his wife. He tried to be calm, but inside he thought there might be something wrong with the house. Because of believing the forgotten red dress was a piece of bad luck, Teju immediately told his wife to take it off and put it aside. Although being worried about the weird dress, they fell asleep very quickly because their bodies were exhausted after a hard day's work. An hour later, Teju woke up again because of a strange feeling in his spine. Teju turned around to embrace his wife to feel more secure, but suddenly, his face immediately darkened. For some reason, in the dim-lit room, Nami's face looked scary. Her eyes were wide open to the extreme that her husband could clearly see the blood vessels inside. Looking down at her body, he really panicked when he saw Nami wearing a red dress again. As he couldn't keep calm any longer, he stood up and shouted angrily, but Nami still didn't react at all. In a fit of anger, he lost his temper. He had called out to her many times and she didn't answer, so he patted Nami's head very hard. The pain immediately caused Nami to wake up from her daze. She covered her face with her hands and shouted loudly. At this time, Teju had calmed down. He softly asked his wife why she put the devil dress on again, but Nami herself could not answer his question. Her face could not hide the fear. Because thinking that all of the trouble was somehow caused by the red dress, the husband rushed to help his wife take it off. Then, Teju took the dress in silence and got out of their bed with the astonishment of Nami. He was intending to throw it away. If he did that, everything would hopefully go back to normal. In the dark of night, Teju walked alone to the recycle bin near their apartment and dumped the beautiful red dress inside. But Teju was wrong. After he threw away the item that brought bad luck, everything became even worse. After returning to their apartment, both Teju and his wife could not sleep. He sat up and smoked a few cigarettes. Although Teju didn't stop thinking about what had happened, he still tried to be calm to reassure his wife. Hearing the comforting words of her husband, Nami gradually felt more secure. She tried to close her eyes to calm her panic. After Nami fell asleep, Teju smoked a few more cigarettes. Although thinking carefully about what they had experienced, Teju still couldn't understand it. At the time Teju decided to take a rest, his wife suddenly jumped up from the bed. He turned to his wife and asked, "Why don't you sleep? Is something wrong again?" Unlike the previous time, Nami immediately replied to his question, but it was a completely unfamiliar voice. His whole body was frozen, his heart beat fast, and his mouth stammered a few harsh words. He was both scared and worried about his wife. Before Teju finished the sentence, the woman turned to him again. She growled and shouted angrily at him. "Why did you throw my dress away?" Teju thought this time might be the same as the previous times, so he shouted loudly to wake his wife up. But Nami didn't care at all. She paced about the bedroom and rummaged around to find the dress like a mad woman. After watching everything, Teju sneaked up to her and hugged her in his arms tightly. But without him doing anything fierce, she slapped him across the face very hard. Because of the unexpected blow, Teju couldn't dodge it. As a result, he lost a tooth for what he had done. While he was still struggling to get up, Nami opened the door and rushed out. From that moment, Teju could confirm that she was not his wife at all. A few seconds after she left, Teju also tried to get up and chase after her as he feared that something bad would happen. She was gliding across the floor like a water puppet, which was different from a human being. After walking about 10 meters, the woman suddenly stopped and looked up at the sky. She then fell to the ground. Her body seemed to lose all strength. Teju hurriedly ran to Nami, lifting her head up and howled loudly. No matter how hard he tried, she still didn't wake up. Later that night, he called an ambulance for his wife. Nami was unconscious for the whole of the next day until that night when she finally woke up. After Teju's wife overcame the critical condition, he could not hide his happiness. He totally forgot about the incident on the previous day. But when Nami woke up, she seemed lost in a daydream in which she couldn't remember what had happened. Nami's memories were like a broken tape. She didn't remember anything about her sleepwalking and actions the day before. The more she listened to Teju's story, the more she felt tormented. She feared that she would hurt her husband again. Not only Nami, but also Teju felt very troubled because the doctor said that she did not have the symptoms of sleepwalking or any other problems. Then he decided to go in to meet the previous owner of the apartment. Teju couldn't keep calm when he told his story and what he had experienced in the haunted flat. But the previous owner still insisted that his apartment had no problems whatsoever. The previous owner's explanation could not convince Teju, so the next day he decided to move them to another place. Until now, although living in a better apartment, Teju still had trouble sleeping every night because of the incident haunting him. Whenever he couldn't sleep, he would go online to find out more about his old apartment, as well as the red dress. The truth was that a long time ago, a woman was betrayed by her husband, so she hanged herself in that very apartment. Since then, everyone who was living in the apartment would see the red dress. However, no one could stay for more than a total of 3 days.